Hello children and welcome back to our lesson the forests. We had discussed the types of forests and in the previous video I discussed with you the reasons for destruction of forests and the threats to wildlife. Now today we will discuss what are the efforts that different people around the world are doing for conservation and the preservation of forests. Conservation and preservation are two different terms. We need to grow the forests once again, that is conservation, and we need to preserve of whatever forests are left around the world. And both of these activities are a must in order to maintain the balance of the earth as well as the biodiversity of the earth. Wildlife and the forests, they are a measure of the biodiversity of a particular region. By conserving the wildlife and forest, we ensure that all the diverse species in an area, they survive, they breed and they flourish. That is, all the different species of that particular area, they not only live, they not only survive, but they also grow by breeding and they flourish. Conservation of wildlife and the forest, it is very essential for the ecological stability of a particular area. It is as essential for animals as it is for humans. We humans also need to protect the environment for our own welfare. So, as individuals, we need to put in extra efforts. What can we do is, we should stop cutting trees. We should encourage Van Mahotsav. Van Mahotsav is a festival of planting trees and it is during the month of July. As you know, we have the monsoon season in the month of July, and in this monsoon season, the trees, they grow very quickly. So at this time, if you plant a sapling, it will grow without much effort. So here children, I plead to you, at least plant one sapling and help it to grow. And don't plant a small plant. Try to grow a tree which will grow big. It may be a peepal tree, a banyan tree, a mango tree, orange tree, or any other tree that you like. But see that it is a tree and not a small plant. And you will be very happy to see the tree grow and prosper. And especially when it will give you fruit, you will be pleased more than I can tell you. Here I would also like to discuss Chipko movement. This Chipko movement was started by Sundarlal Bahuguna, and this was to discourage people from cutting of trees. What he did was that whenever anybody would be there to cut a tree, people of that particular area would hug the tree, just like you hug your mummy and daddy or maybe your siblings. In the same way, they used to hug the tree. In Hindi, we call it chipak jana. So it was given the name Chipko movement. So it would discourage the person from cutting the tree and the tree would be saved. So even we can follow this. If we ever see a tree being cut, we can also try to stop the tree from being cut. Prevent the spreading of forest fires by making a fire line. A fire line is an area which is cleared of grass and vegetation so that if there is a fire, then the fire would not spread further. You must have heard about the forest fires of Australia, and because of which many wild animals were killed, especially the koalas, I'm sure you must have seen it on the TV and even on the internet. They were showing it. And so these forest fires, they need to be prevented. Even in Uttarakhand, we have many forest fires. And so we can do few things to avoid the spreading of forest fires. Then we can adopt various government activities. Wherever the government is taking initiative to plant trees to preserve forests, we may be a little helpful towards those activities. We can practice silviculture, which means growing of trees on a large scale, where in a big area many people can come together to plant the trees so that we can grow our small forests on our own. So this was about the individual efforts which the people of different areas can undertake in order to improve the wildlife, the vegetation of that particular area. Now let us discuss what the government does. And here we are especially going to discuss about what the Indian government is doing in order to preserve the forests. So this is under the heading national efforts. So what are the important steps which government in India has taken? First is we have a national forest policy. In this policy, the management of the forest is done not only by the people of the government officials, but also it's about taking the local villagers to work for it, and together they manage the forests. So for this, the local villages, they were also given a percentage of the income from that forest area, so that this encourages the villagers to preserve and conserve the forest areas, and they would be discouraged from cutting off trees. Another thing which is done is conservation of reserve forests. So reserve forests are mainly located in the Himalayas, the Eastern Ghats and the Western Ghats. Reserve forest means an area where the cutting of trees is totally prohibited. These areas are looked after by the people of the forest department. Have you heard of the forest department? Yes, we also have a forest department, and they have their own force which looks after the wild animals, and it looks after the forest, the trees, and they are in national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. So in all these areas, the commercial exploitation is prohibited, totally banned. Hunting is banned, cutting of tree is banned. These areas are to develop just like a normal forest. Have you heard of Corbett National Park, children? Yes, that is also a reserve forest. Now, what is the difference between a wildlife sanctuary and a national park? A wildlife sanctuary is an area where animal habitats and their surroundings are protected from any sort of disturbance. Nobody can disturb them. The capturing, killing, and poaching of animals is strictly prohibited in these areas. In a national park, it is an area which is set aside by national government for the preservation of natural environment. And a national park may be set aside for purposes of public recreation and enjoyment. Like I told you about the Corbett National Park, as I said, it is a national park. So you can go and visit the park, but nobody is allowed to hunt or to cut trees. As I said, it is historically important because Jim Corbett, a great hunter, he developed it. So we have many wildlife sanctuaries and national parks in our country which are being protected by the government and by the forest department. Next is what is done internationally. Here is a picture of the different wild animals that you can see in the different areas of the forests. How many of them can you name? Okay. Now we talk about international efforts. many existing international treaties and agreement. They contain provisions that aim to regulate certain activities related to forests. So different countries together, they sign the agreements, the treaties, so that the people may not exploit the forest areas as and when they wish. They have to use these areas according to the treaty. But there is no legal instrument in which forests are main subject. That is, there is no international treaty in which all environmental, social, and economic aspects of forest ecosystems are included. It is not a legal document. It is only done as a moral document by which the countries can decide on their own how they want to take care of the forest. However, we have the Earth Summit, the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. This is done by the UNO, also known as the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, the Rio Summit, the Rio Conference, and the Earth Summit. It was a major United Nations conference which was held in Rio de Janeiro from 3rd to 14th of June in 1992. But very sadly, only 22 countries have officially confirmed the treaty. And how many countries are there in the world? About 120 countries. So that means many countries have not been a part of this treaty. So this is a sad story where much more concrete action is needed on the part of the countries of the world in order to preserve the forests. I hope you have understood the lesson. Children, please go through the text in your book and try to do the exercises. I will send a PDF of question answers and the exercises. You can take help from that. Please write question answers in the notebook and complete the exercises in your book. Take care, children. Bye.